This is the UK Brand Show with Penny Williams and Mark Challinor.
Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Hi, Penny.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
I'm good. Are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
I can see you. I can see you're not alone this week. You've got two guests.
No, we've got two for the price of one this week.
Can you introduce who they are?
I can indeed. So we've got two special guests. We're going to look at the interesting subject of CGI today. We've got Dan Lawrence from Dirty Media and Jules Quested-Williams from Built For Marketing, who have partnered in the past over various projects, particularly in the construction sector, working on CGI and bringing products alive. So I thought it would be great to have them on the show to talk about this technology. So welcome, Dan and Jules.
Hi, nice to see you.
Hey, thanks.
Well, before we go any further, guys, and just to help everybody understand what it is we're talking about here, I've got a video, it's a YouTube video, which I've got a link to here. So shall I just play that and everyone can understand exactly the technology that you guys are into? So if you bear with me 1 second, and let's just put this on. Brilliant. And I think that sums up perfectly. It did to me anyway, exactly what you guys do. And this is, whoa. Okay, so oh, hang on, I beg your pardon. We get to get rid of that. We've got a technology which brings what could be fairly said to be sometimes dull in some people's eyes, sometimes technical, sometimes very complicated, to life in such a way that it makes it so fascinating. I mean, I know nothing about construction, but that just makes me want to watch it. Brilliant. And would that sum up what you do, basically, the space that you work in?
Definitely. I think the whole reason why we started was to take kind of CGI and VFX, which is typically used for like movies and exciting trailers and, you know, high-end car adverts, and actually bring it and make it accessible to companies that would never normally use it, but do already have 3D data. So obviously the built environment is becoming more and more 3D, more and more virtual every day. And we just take all of that data, we bring it into the same software, and we just make it really exciting and engaging. But the whole purpose is, yes, it's to grab attention, but we really want to add value. We want to make purposeful content so it actually solves a problem. And for a lot of these companies, that's what they're facing. Yes, they want something pretty, of course, and attractive. People do, they need to grab attention, but it also has to explain something very complicated. And you can't do that a lot of the time, especially in construction, because the products are hidden, which is something we're coming on to later.
Cool. I mean, for us working together, and I think Dan will say, we spend a lot of time putting a strategy together to make sure that content is used throughout the marketing delivery. It's not about creating a one-hit wonder that gets used at a trade show and then never gets used again. It's actually meaningfully putting something together that allows, and as Dan says, particularly in the construction and construction products, things are hidden behind walls, behind ducting, under the ground, and actually to visualize and explain how something works, you have to do something that is educational as well as technical, as well as being informative and eye-catching, and CGI does that as part of the marketing mix.
Yeah. So should we go all the way back firstly? Dan, you would say you're a bit of a tech head, I guess.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about you and your journey, and how did you get to where you were today first?
Well, I've always been into technology. So my degree was in computer science, and I did a lot of kind of programming, software development, ran teams in agencies doing technical strategy, delivery, and everything basically. I would go to the client, figure out what they needed, come away. I knew what was possible with the technology, and we just spec that up, get it delivered. That could be a £5 grand website, could be a £250,000 website. Ultimately, it was the same thing. I did that for probably about 10 years through various agencies, and got pretty much as far as I could really get. And I kind of got a bit bored of the whole thing. I was like, it's just the same websites over and over again. And I wanted to do something really that pushed the boundaries, and I wanted to start my own company, and I did. So I came off, and actually this week is 5 years. We realized that this morning. We're going to do a bit of a piece about our first 5 years. But yeah, so five years we've been going now. We've created videos for all kinds of companies in the UK, in the States, in Dubai, showing all kinds of products across a whole wide range of industries. It's really quite exciting. And we've always had at the forefront of what we do to stand out, obviously, and for people to stop scrolling, to stop whatever it is they're doing when they see one of our videos and be like, wow, that's amazing. Let me click on it. And then when they go in and they find out, they think this is just brilliant. I need to find out more about this product. And a lot of the clients that we're working with, they are industry leaders. So they're serial innovators. They're the guys that are pushing the boundaries, and that's who we want to work with. That's our ethos. We want to be pushing the boundaries with our stuff as well. So that's where we've got to.
And yeah, go on, Pen. Sorry.
I was just going to say, so tell us a bit more about who's sort of typically using CGI at the moment. One of your sort of, what's one of your best clients that you've had?
Got to be careful, can't pick best.
No,
but yeah, I know they'd fire me straight away. But yeah, absolutely. So as I said, the typical kind of client, they are innovators. They typically have a technical problem of some description. So one of the clients that we work with is a good example is Maguire, and they have a range of machinery that handles like plastic materials, so lots of tiny plastic pellets that get melted down and used to build like Lego bricks or plastic water bottles or that sort of stuff. And their machinery that they've created leads their industry, but because it does things in a different way, people can find, or their target audience can find that confusing. They see something that's unknown, they think, well, it can't possibly do that in a tenth of the time for half the cost. I don't trust it, or it's just requires some small changes to how the system is installed or something like that. That's a very typical kind of client that will come to us. They've got a really exciting product and they need to get the point across like quickly and cleanly. You try and film this stuff when you're in a big, plastics manufacturing facility. You can't see it because it's all the materials hidden away. And you can't show any of the detail of how the product does what it does. You've got to like make it see-through, take this panel off, show how the software physically changes the amount of material going in and how much material it's saving and all that kind of stuff. So they're a very typical client for us in terms of somebody who's got a challenge, a problem or a challenge that we have to solve.
And Jules, what's your connection with Dan then? You've worked together in a consultancy capacity, right?
Well, really partners, I'd say.
Right.
Built for Marketing is really about being consultative in a built environment. We're rather than an agency, we describe ourselves as a consultancy. We're very much about strategy and building strategy, having building products for 30 years. I now only look 21. I have to tell you I'm slightly older than that. And what that's enabled us to do is very much we're specialists in the strategy and the market, and we work closely with clients. We don't want to be basic at everything. We want to be specialist at what we do, and we work with specialists. So with the relationship with Dan, it's actually born of an earlier company as well, an agency called The Hideout, where Dan previously had a home, and they're a partner too. So what it's done is evolved over years that we know who the right people for the right job. We spend a lot of time with clients who have a product exactly as described by Dan, hidden, can't be seen, is a challenge. How do you get across something that's in a muddy pit to make it look exciting for a contractor to engage with it, or an architect to specify it, or a facilities management company to understand how to maintain it? And that's really where the relationship's born with Dan.
So if you started a relationship with a potential new client, I mean, one, I'm interested to know, how do they know about the whole CGI work to begin with? Because it must be difficult to get that across first if you're not used to using it. And secondly, do you both go into a new client together side by side to say, this is the technology bit and this is the marketing bit?
Yeah, exactly that. We go in together. One pitch that we've been on together involved actually putting together an example of a visualization. But what they needed to do was have an international strategy for international markets, and how we could use not having to use language as a barrier to explaining what it was. So it was all about the visualization. More recently, looking and working with a client who has something which is a product, which is an aquifer block, which stops flooding, but effectively it goes in a pit, muddy pit, gets dropped in, and its cleverness gets hidden because you never really understand what it does. And it's a different way of doing things. So an alternative method of doing something is very difficult to get across unless you can visualize it, which is where we've been working together.
I think a lot of the time it's the clients that we may already be working with, or even sometimes Jules has been working with previously, and it just comes up in the conversation. So a lot of the times recently where we've recommended Jules, and a lot of clients are struggling with strategic product launches. They're coming to us and they're saying, we're revamping, I don't know, a type product range, and we're trying to launch it, convert it all into Imperial, and we want to get it over to the States. We want to start selling more of this product over there, or they don't sell it at all. So that's great, and we can help them make the video. We can, make it look amazing and break all the messaging down. We know the individual problems that installers have in the US versus in the UK, but it doesn't necessarily help them solve the problem of, how do I do this? How do I use this cool thing that you've given me? Now, we've remedied that to some extent ourselves. We have a digital marketing team in-house that help with the kind of fundamentals of creating a campaign and helping clients get familiar with things like LinkedIn marketing or AdWords, but it doesn't necessarily help them with the wider piece, the wider strategic piece. And a lot of the questions that we're asking and the boundaries that we're pushing end up in those discussions. We end up in like business case discussions with their senior management team and leadership team, and they're saying, well, we want to do this. What do you think? I'm like, I don't know, well, my dad, but I do know somebody you need to speak to. So I think COVID has brought a lot of these clients, and it's really solidified the relationship that we've got with Jules and the team, because they just slot in, they know what we do. They've got the experience with the clients, the route to market, and they can put the comms package together. And it's just a really nice sort of fit between us. I was going to say mesh, but we're showing the mesh video later. It's a really nice fit between us, and so I think it's very complementary. It doesn't feel like either of us are particularly, forcing each other on clients. It's not. It doesn't work that way. It's more the client is naturally moving down that road. I say, well, you need to speak to Jules, or Jules will say, right, well, you need to speak to Dan. So it works. Yeah, it does work very well. It's quite complementary.
I think also it's at point of investment, isn't it, Dan? We tend to work at a strategic level with a private equity house or a VC or a CEO or owner of a business. We don't come in at a marketing manager discussion level. We're having a strategic conversation linked to business objectives. And the investment that is made in this is investment in a delivery for maybe 12 months or a launch for 18 months globally. So that means that we come in at a different price bracket. We're not just part of an ordinary marketing mix. The strategy is built. We know what we're delivering, why we're delivering it, and what the effectively the ROI is at the end of it. And that's what we have to justify. So it becomes part of quite a large strategy for business, really.
Yeah, I mean, ROI is really important. Mark, you asked a question, said, do clients, are they aware of your services? What's the touch point? How they speak to you? More often than not, now they see one of our videos, so we'll do a lot of LinkedIn marketing, a lot of outbound marketing. We started last year when COVID hit. Before that, all of our work was referral, so we'd never marketed. We did a couple of trade shows, that was it. So now a lot of clients see our content somewhere, and they just say, that's really cool, I need to find out more about it. I had no idea this was possible. And that you've touched on is one of the biggest challenges, is the majority of what we do is education. We have to educate our clients into understanding what's possible. And suddenly when you say anything's possible, they all just, the first thing they go is, oh, okay, how much does it cost me? You know, and we're quite fortunate. What we do is all based on time. So you've got a client with a budget that's $3,000, that's fine. You've got a client with a budget that's 30 grand, that's fine. You know, you can achieve vastly different things for those two budgets. You can still meet some of the, you know, the use cases, but not necessarily all of them. So we say, well, why don't we just take this part of this one product from the range rather than trying to do the whole range? And why don't we just show a more generic video rather than trying to show applications for all 6 industry sectors? So, you know, I think we have to educate them in terms of managing expectations, but a lot of them flat out don't know what they can do with it. They see a video, and nowadays CGI can be so good that you look at it, sometimes you can't even tell if it's real life or not, you know. And there's some stuff I see that's real life, I'm like, that's CGI, and now look, I know it's real life. And so, you know, even us, we're supposed to be experts, I think, you know, you can struggle. But yeah, I mean, we're going to go on and talk, I think, about some of the kind of challenges of COVID and where the technology is going. I think that's the exciting time. That's, you know, I think where Jules and I are going to work really well together.
I guess, you know, if I was a client and you'd come in to see me, and I'm not in the construction industry, but I'm just imagining what it might be like if I've not seen your technology before, and I knew there was someone coming in to talk about CGI, I'd immediately think Hollywood blockbuster movies, and I'd immediately think, oh my God, this is going to be massively expensive. Is that a challenge you do face, or is it just my perception's wrong?
No, absolutely. I mean, we get clients, if I'm honest, actually at both ends of the spectrum. So we get clients who think it's going to be way more money than it actually is. So some work that we do is a lot simpler because it doesn't involve as much. And then some customers who think, oh, it's just simple. We're just showing this, this, and this, and just a bit of smoke here and some fluid simulations, and it's easy. And you're like, no, that's going to take ages. So I think you get them at both ends. But one of the sides, you know, one of the things I think is people, it depends on their industry sector. So people in construction and architectural visualization, when they hear CGI, they're thinking, you know, elevation shots or like brochure images that you might get when, you know, you're marketing a product, a property or something like that. So, but that's a still image, you know, that's very different to what we do those, but we build everything virtually. We don't sort of Photoshop it in, it's real 3D. We build an entire environment. And I think for customers understanding that they are no longer limited to a product they install. So let's say if you're a customer and you're marketing your products, the first thing you do is you talk about case studies, because it's very relatable. People think, oh, similar turnover business to me, similar business challenges. I know them, you know, they're in my industry. If they trust you, I'll trust you. There's that side of it. But the practical side is you probably haven't solved all of the problem. You haven't leveraged your entire product range in any one job. You've done a little bit here in one job and then maybe use some different products over here in another job. Whereas with CGI, you can build an environment or a challenge that features every benefit of all of your product range, and you can show the entire product range off in one case study, for want of a better term. And I think that's a really challenging concept, because the salesperson marketing goes, brilliant, let's do it. And then you need to sit down with the technical guys and go, right, we need to design a realistic environment that has all of these challenges. And they're like, wow, I don't even know how we're going to do that. So even operationally, there can be, you know, you're challenging the team internally to push the boundaries of what their products can do, just to kind of market them. But
I would add to that, Dan, in a construction sense, that so building information modeling, BIM, is at the forefront of construction now. It's part of the norm, and so building that spatial concept for a client to interact with a new shopping centre or HS2 or whatever else is at the front of that. With a construction perspective, it's the norm. Where the challenge comes in is maybe where building product manufacturers or somebody who is just a small part of that then doesn't, the visualization is already sort of completely engrossed front end for construction, but isn't necessarily pushed out at the back end from an engagement point of view. So an architect is stimulated with their eyes. They want to be thrilled by something. They already are using BIM and visualization themselves. And you spoke about 3D CADs and stuff like that, which is really the starting block for a lot of Dan's work. So we've already got that. But a building product manufacturer may not stimulate with the eyes in the same way that an architect would have expected to, because they've already embraced BIM. So there's sort of, you know, you've got to bring the two together. So CGI does that.
Right.
It has to look pretty, but it has to add value. And a lot of the time, the technical companies that we're working with are selling to other technical people, especially in the supply chain. You're not marketing to, you know, Joe Blogs in the public who'll see a pretty picture of a car and go and ask about it. These guys deal with complicated problems every day, and they know you can't get around them. You can't pull the wool over their eyes. You know, they need, if it's not technically accurate, if what you're showing is factually incorrect, they'll know it straight away, and then you've undone all the work that you tried to put into the video. So I think a lot of the time as well, what we struggle with is the teams internally within companies can have very different directions. You know, you've got marketing, sales who just want to make sales, they want to get into a new territory. You've got the guys who are actually designing the products that are trying to say, well, you know, what are the challenges that people face? We need to get across these benefits, you know, low tolerances and blah, 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 all the complicated stuff. And then you've got the client guys who go, well, actually, we need to solve these problems, or we're coming up against these other customers, competitors who are selling this in at this price, but actually 3 years down the line, all the systems are failing, and then having to go back in and, you know, rip it all out and do it again. Like, our product doesn't do that. So all of these three teams, you have to bring all of that together almost into a little focus group, you know, sort of stuff that Jules and I have worked on before, and taking that information out to then drive purposeful content that when the people see it, they go, wow, that's brilliant. That is actually exactly the problem I had just this week. Let's go and speak to this company.
And Jules, when you go in and start talking about this, I guess the creative process behind the whole CGI world, do you find that your clients might have a good idea of what they want before they begin, or is this something where seems to me you just have to lead them by the hand all the way here, because it's probably a brand new technology for most?
There is a lot of hand holding. It's like in any business, you'll have the engineer that wants the technical aspect shown. You'll have a sales guy who's very enthusiastic, but maybe his idea is a little bit further than that, and you need to bring them back. There's all of that. But I would say we take them through a journey of really looking at who are the personas, who are we targeting the information at. From a construction point of view, an architect is very different from a main contractor, is very different from maybe a council, a facilities management company. So you have to understand who you're delivering it to. And then when you break it down, you actually say, okay, if we have only got a finite piece of budget, how do we deliver something visually that will attract all of them? So we have to bring in the technical aspect, the fluidity of movement, zooming through and looking through something, moving it 360 degrees so you can see it from the other side. But all the time, don't make it so fancy that it blows your mind but doesn't deliver what it needs to, which is informative content, which is really what we're all about.
Let me take myself off mute for a sec. So I'm moving on with that in mind, Jules. There's something which has come to the fore, which I know you guys are going to be getting into in a big way, is Microsoft Mesh. Is that right?
Yeah, so I think I shared this video. It's, from what I can understand about Microsoft Mesh, it's a very new kind of product or suite, for want of a better term. You know, with AR and all this kind of stuff, you've got all these serial innovation companies saying, you know, it's going to be the next big thing. I think ultimately any technology will only catch on once it adds true purpose and value. You know, how many of us had webcams at every location a year ago or before, you know, before lockdown started? Like, I didn't have a webcam at work. But now everybody's got them because they have to. I now use however many different pieces of web conferencing software every day because everyone uses something different, and you know that's had to happen. That's the technological need that's come about. And I think Mesh is really exciting because it's talking about the technological needs of the future, and it's talking about collaboration in design and best-in-class minds. I really like that. Because
before you go any further, let's just put a quick video on so people can see exactly what we're talking about.
That would make sense, yeah.
So, so bear with me, everyone. We're just going to get this on the screen now.
Okay, why don't you input the data and we'll take a look together. Hey, Mari, what you got for me?
To find those who share our views, yet offer different perspectives.
Let's this next. Here.
Challenge us with new ways of seeing. Deepen our understanding. And enrich our lives.
最后一笔的时候，往前。
Great things happen when we commit to something bigger than ourselves.
Let's take a closer look at it.
Place this here. Let's see how we go from there, okay?
This sense of collaboration and the feelings of connection it brings excites us.
Hey, just in time. I'm gonna move it slightly, okay?
It's yours, take it.
We have 2 planes right now on the same trajectory.
As we put people first, technology fades into the background and feels like anything but.
Aisha, what do you think?
I think if we had 330, maintaining 2800, we'll be clear for approach.
Excellent.
This changes the way we see the world, and in turn, changes the world we see.
These numbers are looking great, actually.
There's promise in the possibilities, and what we see and create next will stretch the imagination.
Good morning, Sarah.
Morning.
Slowly coming towards the thumb.
A world without boundaries.
Good job. A lot better than yesterday.
Yeah.
Excellent. Slowly bring
A world where technology enhances, not limits, humanity. With people front, center, and in the spotlight. The future is here. And here can be anywhere. Introducing Microsoft Mesh.
Wow, that's quite something, isn't it?
Coming up on Microsoft Mechanics.
That's quite something.
Yeah, it's inspirational, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's incredible. It reminds me of some sort of advanced version of Google Glass in some ways, and everything that Google Glass should have been but was never. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I think so. Jules, you were just saying something there. What were you going to mention?
Yeah, only in the fact that I think that technology moves at a speed now, and I think that we all revert back to COVID, and it has been a pivotal shift in how things are moving forward. I think that a lot of the technology is there, and actually they slow the pace of release to suit when they believe it will get the most penetration. And I know that we were talking about Apple and Apple Glass, and actually that penetration is probably not going to be till 2022, 23, something like that, I would say, before they get everything out. But things are moving. That pivotal shift is, I think, people are embracing technology, and it's become a norm in a lot of the embracing of it.
And just to be clear, for those that don't know, Apple Glass is really what I've just described earlier as the next version of Google Glass, isn't it? It's a much more intuitive, much more blending into people's normal environment, not some silly looking glasses that you may be frightened of wearing. They are blending into a normal pair of glasses, and they have so much more capability.
Now, I think when I was going to say on one other thing was I was thinking ahead in terms of movie engagement. And in 1977, I was blown away by Star Wars and a hologram of Princess Leia. And that for me still feels like it's futuristic in its intent, but actually I think we're getting step to step closer to that now. And products you're talking about and Mesh are all demonstrating that is moving in that direction.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I like the phrase they use there, that it's more about the customer experience, not the technology, and the technology blends into the background. And it just taps into something I've been saying to media companies for years, that when I've gone into talking about what was things about the smartphone, how to use smartphone back in 2007 and 2010, whatever, people were afraid of the technology. And I'm like, well, no, there are people, you know, you're marketers, so there are people out there who can understand the technology. You don't need to. All you need to do is wonder what it can do for you, and we're going to show you that today. And that's what you guys seem to do in abundance.
Yeah, the thing I like about Apple is you can pick holes in everything that they do in any company. But one thing that they do very, very well is they make technology accessible, and they make it, for want of a better term, idiot-proof. You know, I used to have Android phones for ages. I loved all the stuff you could do. It was so wonderful and customizable and all this stuff. Now I just buy iPhones because I'm lazy. I use my phone for specific things. It does all of those things well, and it never breaks. That's it, you know. But I think for Apple, they're probably in a very good position to productize AR. And like, the thing I really enjoyed there about Microsoft Mesh is they're selling a concept, and they're selling it across everything. They're not saying this is specific for work. When they created the HoloLens, and you saw all the marketing around that however many years ago, it was very heavily pushed at you know, well, maybe prosumers, but pretty much professional applications, and, you know, supposedly people that were in design and engineering. In reality, it was just that all of us geeks got on and played with them. They were well expensive, and nobody could justify them unless they had insane amounts of money. And that's the same as anything. You're going to have barriers with these technologies. It will be, are people willing to use it? So is it cost efficient? I think Apple will crack that. I think you've got people being willing to use it in their day-to-day activities. You know, everybody's shifted all of a sudden to having, you know, virtual GP appointments. And before, people probably would have felt a bit awkward about having a video call with their doctor at home or whatever. But that, again, has become a lot more normalized in just 12 months. So I think you're looking at the one there with the doctor helping the one with the prosthetic. I think there's great applications here. And what they've pushed is, here can be anywhere. And that's brilliant, because that's ultimately, in my opinion, one of the greatest things that's come out of COVID is the acceptability of spending time doing other things that you love. You know, you can fit work in and around what you do, and it doesn't actually break the world. It actually, people can be trusted to be adults in the most part, and they, you know, and they're willing to work at the hours that they need to, and it means that companies can hire the best-in-class talent, or use the best-in-class talent from anywhere in the world. And I think that's the point they're getting at there, is if you've got an engineer on a specific system who lives in, you know, the US, but you've got a problem system based here in the UK, like, you can fire that up instantly. You haven't had to fly him over or her over, or you haven't had to do anything like that. It's you know, it's brilliant. It's instant, and I think it's the future of where we're headed to. Definitely.
And from a construction perspective, it's sustainable. And I think the sustainable is the key element here. We do so much within the construction and the built environment to make things sustainable. And actually, this pivotal shift of doing exactly what we're doing in the way we're doing it means that you can be together but not together, and you haven't had to jump on the plane and do all the other things that effectively, you know, a lot of our clients are looking at being net zero, carbon net zero, and, you know, that all contributes to it. You're sustainable.
And how has COVID affected what you guys do? Is that, you know, I was talking earlier about in my world, in the news media world, you know, I'm putting together a masterclass for advertising and media at the moment, and that's centered around the fact that post-COVID, there could be a pent-up demand of advertising money and marketing money, so people want to unleash on back in the media business. On the other hand, it may never come back in the way it was before, and it was a declining market anyway. So is this about new revenue generation in different ways, in different channels and stuff? And I guess it's the same with you, is it? Or is it not being affected by COVID?
From our perspective with our clients, certainly less printed collateral, physical stuff. I have had an eye, we have done one or two direct marketing elements, but that's more difficult when you have people like architects who are actually working from home. It has to be much more smaller, streamlined deliveries. I think as a younger generation comes through, they have a very adept way at running probably 3 pieces of technology simultaneously. they take in technology. It has to be sound bites. It has to be quick information. I think all of those things are going to continue. I can't see that element changing. Dan, what do you think?
I agree. So I think I can only go on obviously what we're hearing from our clients and demand in the wider industry. A lot of them have moved away from face-to-face sales. A lot of them obviously have had their arms twisted. They can't do the trade shows anymore. And for a lot of our clients, that's where they were spending massive portions of their budget, because that's how they did business and that's how they've done business for the last 20, 30 years. But we saw even before COVID that was starting to shift, and that the younger generation of engineers and you know, well, all of them that were coming through and moving up, even in marketing roles, were wanting on-demand content. They're wanting stuff they can lay their hands on at their own leisure. They can direct their own learning and education rather than being prescribed to. They like to feel in control of what it is they're consuming. And I think that has a massive impact on how you deliver your content, because as Jill said, obviously naturally print is dropping. I don't think it will ever disappear completely. There'll always be applications for print and physical media. But I think, you know, we were talking a couple of days ago, Jules, about the challenge of when you receive a nice brochure, a really nice printed brochure, and it's got a really nice feel to it. It's got sort of satin front, some gloss logos. You turn it over and you smell the paper, and you're kind of going through that journey. That's a really kind of visceral thing. And even before you've touched the content, even before you've read anything, you've had an experience. You know, I said about the Apple Watch recently, unboxing it, all Apple products, you have an experience unboxing it, and it kind of tees you up for it. I think the challenge with some digital media is there's so much of it and it's all free, for want of a better term. It's almost devalued in that respect, and you don't get that same impact when you click a button and you watch a YouTube video necessarily that you would if you unboxed or looked at a physical, you know, a bit of print media. So I think what I like about, we talk about Microsoft Mesh and even like VR and stuff like that, is it allows you to interact with the content. And all the studies show that when you interact with something, when you physically change things, your engagement goes through the roof, your retention goes through the roof. You remember that a lot more positively, you remember it for a much longer period of time. So I think giving people control of their content is the future there. So, you know, a lot of the work that we do isn't just in video and animation, it's in, we call real-time technology. So that's what you use for AR, that's what you use for VR. You're changing it, it's moving about, it's dynamic. It's like a game engine, basically. It's using a game engine, but to you know, for professional content. And a company that are doing this really well are Unreal Engine. So there's two major game engines out there, Unreal and Unity. Unreal made a game you might have heard of called Fortnite that just blew up, obviously, over the last few years and went mental. And they have absolutely phenomenal resources in terms of cash and development that they've put into it. And they've really heavily focused on commercial applications and really heavily on construction. So it's all about laying content into like real-time environment, putting the VR headset on and you're on site, you can physically look about and see what you're doing and all that kind of stuff. I think that's the future of, you know, that's where we're heading, and that's where you'll get that experience with content that you maybe get from some of the printed ones.
Well, you know, I've said for many years, and we've talked about on the show, Penn, haven't we, about you know, the future of, well, in our world, media, future, and the same as yours, I guess, is the future of media is all about data plus technology plus creativity equals a better customer experience. I mean, get that all right. And I think what you've shown today, you know, Jules and Dan, you know, is exactly that. And using in your world, what, you know, what you've described yourself on your website is something which could be very technical or complicated or even dull. I think you use the phrase that, you know, you can bring it to life in a way that's never been seen before. And I think it's just quite staggering. And looking at the technology that's coming ahead, I like this idea of, you know, this idea that the technology just sits behind and you don't need to know about it all. At the end, you just need to know what it can do for you. I think British Telecom and BT are doing a lot about this, about the user experience for sport now as well, and making it more immersive and giving a, you know, a better feel for it. And it's just fantastic. And I really applaud what you guys do. I think it's brilliant.
Thank you. Well, interestingly, Unreal Engine, they developed this. There's a company that created, trying to remember what it's called. I think it's Blackbird. And it's a physical robot car, right? That they can put different wheels on it, but it's just got like loads of QR codes all over. It's just a big mesh of metal and wires. It doesn't look like a car. And what they do is they shoot. They use this robotic car to like drive down roads, and they'll shoot like automotive adverts with it. So I think like the iPace used it, and a couple of other kind of large manufacturers have used it, typically in the States, to show off these kind of cars moving through things. And what they do is, the technology is so fast that they can have a live camera moving along like a canyon pass with this robotic car moving along. And they've added on top of it in real time, like a completely realistic model of the car. And as they're going down it, the director can be like, oh, let's change the color. Let's like change the color of the wheels. Let's, you know, try body panel version A that's got a different body kit on it. Or a lot of the time the challenges are the guys who design the car's not in production yet. They're doing a launch trailer or teaser trailer for a car that doesn't exist. So things change, you know. But I thought about this technology and I thought, you know what would be amazing is you sat in the movie theater and you're watching, you know, James Bond in the latest movie and he's like racing this Aston Martin down there. But, you know, if I'd as a consumer gone onto that website previously and I'd said, right, I've spec'd up my own Aston Martin DB11 in this color with these wheels and this, you know, this leather or whatever, I'm watching the movie, I can just say, okay, show me my Aston Martin. And suddenly James Bond is driving the one that I've spec'd up and he's driving down the road. Like, yeah, it does look pretty good actually. Yeah, I've got spare 200 grand, I'll buy one. But I think, you know, it's a really nice way of seeing how these technologies are filtering into real life. And another really popular application for that was virtual studios. So because of COVID, people couldn't get to do real filming in new studios and all the rest of it. A lot of the technologies that we work with, they released versions to help media companies build completely virtual film sets and broadcasting sets for like news stations and stuff like that. That again, because it's so powerful, it's real time. So yeah, I mean, you've got the deep fakes as well. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of that. It's kind of, they did one with the Queen where they got her to say something she would normally be saying, and you know, I think there's some really, well, politically, obviously, there's a whole bunch of minefield.
The guy who did the biggest deep fake has just been employed by Lucasfilms.
I saw that.
Yeah, so he's now effectively the best deep faker is now going to be employed by Lucas in terms of Star Wars regeneration.
Yeah, so he fixed that. They released, I can't remember which one it was, but they released the film and then he went in and made the original Luke like much more realistic and did it for free basically and stuff. But even that, you think of that as a use case where someone at home has been able to access and leverage the same technology that a multi-million-dollar movie studio has had. You know, that's why we're around, because 10 years ago you couldn't have done the kind of stuff. Even when I started the company, it was astronomical to buy the equipment to do what we do. It's probably dropped in cost by 90% now, genuinely, to get the kind of equipment that you need to do the work that we do. So I think that kind of availability of tech, just so suddenly you've got all these, you know, minds out there that can make use of it. So yeah, it's exciting times to do.
It's funny. I think it's another conversation. Talking to Penny here now, I think it's a conversation for another show day actually, because the whole deep fake thing fascinates me. And even from a nonsensical point of view and a silly point of view, I remember seeing there was a deep fake video of Hitler singing "Don't Worry About a Thing" when the Euros were on, England playing Germany. So, and you look at things like that and think it's very entertaining on the one hand. You can see the application in movies, for example, and how brilliant that is. But on the other hand, in the media world we're coming from, and you get everything going out on social media, you don't know what's true anymore and whether they're taking it down, what's not true. And it's like there's such a balance to what's good and bad about it all. But anyway, that's for another day. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's been absolutely fascinating. It really has. Yeah. I could talk about all this stuff forever. It's great.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back.
Definitely, yeah.
Like we said, it's such a fast-moving thing, even more so since the pandemic. So yeah, you'll have to come back and talk to us.
Yeah. Thank you for having us both.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll talk again soon.
Will do.
See you soon.
Bye for now. So, Pan, that was another great show.
Absolutely. Yeah. Future of marketing, really. You know, the large companies are already using it, but I think that will, as Dan was saying, you know, the kit has come down in price, so I'm sure in terms of accessibility more people will be using it, and it is the future, and it feels like it's coming so much faster than, you know,
I think everything has its day, doesn't it? We've talked about this before, and sometimes technology is out there and you're thinking it's a bit too science fiction for me, and whilst it still is, it's not anymore, because it's suddenly of the age where, you know, the impossible is. I remember going to see It's a bizarre one. I remember going with a friend of mine to see a sponsored gig at the Battersea Power Station. So in the middle of the Battersea Power Station, there was a release of a new album by, of all people, it's sort of 70s, 80s rocker Alice Cooper. And it was marketed as Alice Cooper in 5D. And the whole thing was, there was a stage and he was playing live in Beverly Hills, and it was being shown in 5D, sorry, on a stage in front of it all. And it was awful. It was terrible. The technology didn't really work. You could see him playing, but it was like, it just looks like a movie. And that was about, I don't know, maybe about 10 or 12 years ago now.
Ahead of its time.
Well, it was in terms of what it was trying to do, but it
Yeah.
wasn't of the time for that technology. But I guess if they did it today, it'll be a totally different story.
Yeah.
Go on. Anyway, there we go. So that's it.
Show. So go to the ukbrandshow.co.uk if you want to see or hear more of these shows, or follow us on the YouTube channel, Facebook and Twitter.
Indeed, indeed. And we'll be back again very soon.
Very soon. See you soon, Mark.
We will. Bye for now. Bye.